In the velvet darkness beyond Earth's orbit, where starlight sparsely kissed the void, a faint anomaly began its inexorable approach. It was a signal, a barely perceptible whisper among the cosmic symphony that unsettled the best minds of humanity. In the sprawling command hub of the Celestial Defense Nexus, nestled in the remote orbit of a forgotten space station, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation and dread. Here, in a room filled with holographic star maps and pulsating data streams, humanity's future was being rewritten in real time. The anomaly had first been noticed by a lone deep space probe, its sensors straining against the overwhelming silence of interstellar space. When the probe's data reached the Nexus, technicians and scientists gathered around, transfixed by the screens. The image was stark and unyielding, a gargantuan silhouette against the backdrop of distant nebulae, moving with a deliberate, ominous grace. No natural phenomenon could account for its calculated path. The vessel was unmistakably artificial, and its design was like nothing humanity had ever encountered. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the lead astrophysicist at the Nexus, studied the incoming telemetry with a blend of wonder and trepidation. "It's not just a ship," she murmured, her voice a mix of scientific curiosity and deep-seated alarm. "It's an enigma. A warship engineered with precision that belies the brutal efficiency of an empire." Her words hung in the air, as palpable as the gravity that tethered their station to the earth below. General Marcus Reed, a veteran of countless cosmic confrontations, strode into the command center. His rugged features and steely gaze mirrored the weight of responsibility he bore. "Status report," he demanded in a clipped tone that left no room for ambiguity. A junior officer quickly responded, "Sir, initial trajectory analysis confirms it's on a collision course with Earth. Its speed and maneuverability are beyond our current capabilities." A murmur of disbelief ran through the room as the gravity of the situation became undeniable. The vessel, later codenamed the Obsidian Wraith by the anxious minds at the Nexus, was a marvel of militaristic engineering. Sleek yet menacing, its dark hull absorbing rather than reflecting the sparse light of distant suns. Its silhouette was not just a statement of power, it was a harbinger of extinction. The very presence of this warship in human space was an affront to every defensive measure humanity had meticulously built over centuries. It was as if the galaxy had sent a final dire ultimatum, submit or be obliterated. As the crew deliberated the crisis, a tense silence enveloped the room. Dr. Vasquez paced slowly before a colossal viewport that revealed the eternal night of space, her thoughts as turbulent as the nebulae beyond. "There's something almost deliberate about its course," she said softly. "It's not random. It's as if it's been programmed to exploit every weakness in our defenses." Her observation struck a chord, igniting a spark of both fear and defiance within the assembled experts. General Reed's voice cut through the tension. "Defensive postures and evasive maneuvers won't save us if we let it come this close. We need to understand its strategy, and fast." A plan was beginning to form, one that relied not on brute force, but on the unique, innovative spirit that had defined humanity's rise from primitive beginnings to interstellar prominence. The general's eyes burned with determination as he addressed the gathered strategists. "This isn't just a military threat, it's an existential challenge, and if there's one thing humans have in abundance, it's ingenuity." The discussion grew animated, punctuated by technical jargon and rapid-fire analysis. Schematics of the warship's exterior were projected against transparent panels, its mysterious energy patterns and defensive arrays scrutinized by teams of engineers and tacticians. Every detail was a clue, a potential chink in the seemingly impenetrable armor of the galactic juggernaut. As theories and strategies collided, a single idea emerged: outsmart the enemy by turning its advanced design against itself. In a dimly lit corner of the command center, a small team of unconventional thinkers, renowned for their lateral thinking rather than military acumen, whispered among themselves. "The Empire believes that raw power equals control," one of them noted, his voice barely audible. "But power can be redirected. Intelligence can exploit precision. We need to think like the enemy, to understand its language of destruction." Their conversation, though brief, planted a seed of hope that innovation might be the key to survival. Meanwhile, high above the planet, the obsidian wraith sliced through the void with silent menace. Its approach was like the slow, inevitable advance of a predator stalking its prey, each second drawing it closer to Earth's fragile defenses. Unbeknownst to its creators in the far reaches of the Galactic Empire, the warship was now hurtling into a web of human strategy that promised to be as unpredictable as it was daring. Its cold, calculated mission was about to collide with a force that had long been underestimated, the resilient, adaptive spirit of humanity. Back at the Nexus, the tension reached a fever pitch. The screen in the center of the room displayed the warship's steadily closing distance, a visual reminder that time was running out. "We must mobilize all resources," declared General Reed, his voice echoing off the sleek metal walls of the command chamber. "This is not merely about defense, it's about survival. Humanity has always triumphed through cleverness and perseverance, and today will be no different." As the meeting disbanded into focused task forces and rapid strategic communications, a singular truth resonated among all. The fate of Earth now rested on the razor's edge of innovation and courage. In that pivotal moment, as the obsidian wraith advanced silently through the starry expanse, humanity took its first bold steps toward defying what many had deemed an insurmountable threat. The countdown had begun, and with it, the realization that the coming hours would determine whether Earth would succumb to cosmic tyranny or rise to redefine the very nature of survival. The silent warning had been received. Now humanity was poised to answer with a defiant roar that would echo across the galaxy. Deep within the labyrinthine corridors of the Celestial Defense Nexus, away from the grand strategic hall where the looming threat of the obsidian wraith had ignited fierce debates, a clandestine group of innovators convened. This was no ordinary military meeting. In a secure, dimly lit annex of the station, an area where classified projects were nurtured in secrecy, a small team known only as the Codebreakers gathered to turn humanity's ingenuity into a weapon. Their mission was clear: decipher the enemy's cryptic design and exploit any vulnerability hidden within the warship's formidable systems before it reached Earth. The room was a fusion of retrofitted analog equipment and bleeding-edge quantum computing cores. Screens lined the walls, displaying endless streams of data, binary codes and schematics that glowed with eerie, shifting luminescence. At the center, a long, polished table bore intricate designs of star maps and enemy schematics. The atmosphere vibrated with a sense of urgency. Every second brought them closer to a showdown that would determine the fate of billions. "Every empire leaves a signature, a flaw in its arrogance," intoned Arjun Malik, the lead codebreaker. His hands danced over a holographic interface as he zoomed into the encryption patterns of the obsidian wraith. "This warship is engineered with protocols we might reverse engineer, but its architecture is unlike anything we've seen." His voice, calm yet resolute, carried a mix of scientific precision and a warrior's defiance. Beside him, Lian Zhou, the encryption specialist, scanned a newly generated fractal algorithm that danced across her display. "I'm seeing irregularities," she observed, her eyes narrowing. "The power distribution in its neural net suggests a hidden subsystem. It's almost as if it's designed to self-regulate when it detects anomalies. That could be our entry point." Her quiet determination contrasted with the chaotic rhythm of blinking indicators and scrolling code. Their conversation was punctuated by brief, measured exchanges. "We need to isolate that subsystem," Arjun stated. "A virus engineered to trigger a cascade failure in that node might shut down its primary defense matrix." Leon's fingers flew over her console as she replied, "I can design an adaptive algorithm that mimics its code signature, making it believe it's receiving authorized commands." The plan was risky. One misstep could alert the warship's automated defenses or, worse, accelerate its lethal mission toward Earth. Beyond the secure confines of their makeshift laboratory, the station's ambient hum of activity was a constant reminder of the stakes at hand. The broader nexus was abuzz with military protocols, tactical simulations, and frantic communications with allied ships. Yet here, The codebreakers worked in a realm where every keystroke was a gamble, a silent rebellion against the overwhelming might of a galactic juggernaut. Arjun's strategy relied on a calculated paradox. By understanding and imitating the enemy's own digital signature, they could inject a command that turned its strength into a fatal weakness. "It's an intellectual duel," he explained in a low, steady tone. "We're fighting an algorithm with our own ideas. They assumed brute force was the answer, but we'll show them that creativity outmatches computation." His words were both a promise and a challenge, a declaration that humanity's spirit was a force no empire could subdue. As the minutes slipped away, Leon initiated a simulated attack on a digital replica of the warship's core system. The holographic display shimmered with cascading layers of code as the simulation tested various scenarios. "I've isolated a series of commands that manage the ship's power grid," she murmured, eyes reflecting the luminescent code. "If we overload this sequence, the ship's internal safeguards might implode." Her hypothesis was met with a brief nod from Arjun, who continued to monitor the simulation's feedback with unwavering focus. The simulation began to reveal a pattern, a hidden pulse in the ship's circuitry that repeated at precise intervals. "There," Arjun said, pointing at the display, "that rhythmic pulse is our key. If we can disrupt it at the exact moment of its cycle, we can trigger a system-wide collapse." A ripple of excitement ran through the room, tempered by the knowledge of the colossal risks they faced. A single miscalculation could result in catastrophic failure, but the alternative was unthinkable: Earth's annihilation at the hands of an unstoppable warship. Amid the technical jargon and digital blueprints, the human element of their strategy shone through. Each team member understood that their battle was not just a matter of mathematics and code. It was a battle of wits, of soul, and of the unyielding human spirit. "We're not just fighting for survival," Leon said softly, almost to herself. "We're fighting for every moment of freedom, every breath of hope. Our ancestors survived by adapting, and so will we." In that charged atmosphere, a silent agreement permeated the room. The team would work around the clock, relentlessly refining their algorithm, testing it against simulated defenses, and preparing for the moment when they'd have to unleash their digital gambit. Outside, the warship's ominous silhouette loomed ever larger on the Nexus displays, a dark promise of destruction that now fueled every heartbeat in the room. The plan, codenamed Project Aegis, was meticulously laid out. It called for a two-pronged approach. While Leon's algorithm would target the hidden subsystem, a secondary code, developed by a reclusive mathematician known only as Coda, would act as a failsafe to counter any unexpected anomalies. The idea was to create a digital feedback loop so volatile that it would confuse the warship's systems into self-destruct. Even as details were hashed out in whispered consultations, a small digital clock in the corner ticked relentlessly, a reminder that time was their most dangerous adversary. Outside the annex, the hum of the station was punctuated by the distant sounds of shuttle docks and the muffled conversations of other specialists. The codebreakers knew that every second in isolation brought them closer to the moment when they would have to present their plan to the High Command, a moment that could either secure Earth's future or seal its doom. Yet, in that tense interlude, the thrill of the intellectual challenge and the passion for their planet fused into an unbreakable resolve. A final simulation run began, each pulse of the holographic display a heartbeat echoing the risks and hopes of their undertaking. "Initiating simulation," announced a disembodied voice from the system, and the room plunged into a silence that was both heavy and expectant. The team watched as streams of data converged, forming a digital tapestry of potential outcomes. As the algorithm approached its critical juncture, every eye in the room fixated on the display. The simulation's outcome was not yet clear, but a subtle shift in the digital patterns gave the team pause. "We've got a 78% chance of success in controlled conditions," Arjun reported, his tone measured. "Real-world conditions will be more unpredictable, but this is our best lead." The numbers were more than just probabilities. They were a testament to the ingenuity and courage that had defined humanity since its dawn. In a final, quiet moment before the team dispersed to their individual tasks, Leon looked around at her colleagues. "We're the underdogs," she said, her voice resonating with determination. "But history has shown that when the odds are stacked against us, that's when the most brilliant minds prevail. Let's make sure our brilliance outshines their arrogance." Her words lingered in the air, igniting a spark of collective resolve that would drive them forward into the coming storm. As the simulation concluded, the team set their sights on the imminent, dangerous reality. The Obsidian Wraith was nearing its final approach to Earth. Their audacious gambit, a blend of advanced computation and raw human intuition, was now the slender thread upon which humanity's future hung. In the quiet before the impending digital warfare, the codebreakers prepared to transform theory into action, armed with nothing more than their wits and the unyielding spirit of survival. In that secluded annex of the Celestial Defense Nexus, as digital codes morphed into the blueprint of defiance, a single truth emerged. The greatest weapon in any battle is the human mind, capable of turning even the most sophisticated enemy against itself. And so, with hearts steeled by purpose and minds sharpened by years of adversity, the codebreakers readied themselves to launch a counterstrike that might just be the spark igniting humanity's ultimate victory. In the aftermath of the codebreakers' breakthrough, the Celestial Defense Nexus shifted into a state of heightened readiness. The entire facility vibrated with a dual pulse of anxious anticipation and resolute determination. The Obsidian Wraith, an ominous specter in the dark void, had grown ever nearer, its calculated trajectory toward Earth a stark reminder of humanity's impending peril. Amid this pressure, the high-level strategists and elite operatives gathered for a final briefing on the daring mission codenamed Shadow Protocol. Inside a reinforced, cavernous war room, walls adorned with holographic displays of star maps and real-time telemetry, General Marcus Reed stood at the forefront. His gaze swept over the assembled commanders and field operatives, each face etched with focus and the weight of destiny. "Today we commit to the unthinkable," he began, his voice resonant and measured. "Our adversary's arrogance lies in its belief that brute force and impenetrable design are invincible. We will exploit that overconfidence with our own weapon, ingenuity. Shadow Protocol is our gambit to outsmart a warship built by an empire." The plan was intricate and audacious. A specialized stealth shuttle, the Dauntless, had been retrofitted with cutting-edge adaptive camouflage and a highly sensitive quantum drive. Its mission was to approach the colossal enemy vessel undetected, within a critical distance, where the codebreakers' meticulously crafted algorithm could be uploaded. This algorithm, designed to mimic the enemy's digital signature and trigger a catastrophic failure in its power grid, was humanity's best hope of turning the tide. The objective was clear: infiltrate the enemy's digital domain and sow chaos from within, before the Wraith could unleash its full might upon Earth. Commander Rhea Morrison, a tactician renowned for her cool precision under pressure, detailed the final phases of the operation. "Our shuttle will be our Trojan horse," she explained, pointing to a holographic overlay that illustrated the Dauntless's approach vector toward the warship's underbelly. "We will slip through the void like a shadow, a mere whisper against the cosmic winds. Once within range, Lieutenant Marco Alvarez and his team will initiate the upload. The virus is calibrated to strike at the core, a rapid, irreversible cascade that will disable the warship's neural pulse. Timing is everything. Even a fraction of a second's delay could spell disaster." A hushed murmur of assent filled the room as the operatives absorbed the plan. Lieutenant Alvarez, his expression stoic and eyes locked on his datapad, added, "Our simulations show a razor-thin margin between success and failure. We're counting on our precise synchronization with the Wraith's internal pulse. One mistimed command, and the chain reaction might not trigger as planned. But our calculations leave no alternative if we are to save Earth." The room's ambient light dimmed momentarily as holograms shifted from static schematics to dynamic representations of the enemy vessel. The Obsidian Wraith loomed large on the central display, a dark monolith etched with pulsating energy patterns that betrayed its advanced yet rigid architecture. Its form was both alien and intimidating, exuding an aura of cold, mechanical inevitability. Yet, in that display, the operatives saw not a symbol of invincibility, but a challenge to the indomitable human spirit. As the briefing progressed, subtle exchanges of determination and quiet resolve broke through the technical language. Commander Morrison's eyes met those of her team. "Remember," she intoned, voice low yet resolute, "we are not just fighting a machine. We are standing up against an empire that believes in destiny dictated by fear. Every moment we survive is a testament to the strength of our resolve, every heartbeat a rebellion against oppression." Her words, delivered with a mix of gravitas and heartfelt passion, ignited a spark within each listener. Meanwhile, deep in the labyrinthine corridors of the Nexus, preparations for the Dauntless were reaching a fever pitch. In a secure hangar bay, the sleek shuttle was being readied for departure. Engineers performed final diagnostics on its adaptive cloaking systems, and technicians calibrated its quantum drive to ensure it could make the rapid maneuvers required by the mission. Every bolt and circuit was scrutinized, every component a critical element in a plan where the margin for error was virtually non-existent. Inside the shuttle, the crew moved with purposeful precision. The interior was sparse, yet state-of-the-art, with control panels glowing softly in the dim light. The silence was punctuated only by the occasional soft beep of instruments and the measured breaths of the operatives who were about to risk everything. In the cramped cockpit, Commander Morrison reviewed the final checklist on her holopad, her fingers gliding over virtual buttons with practiced ease. "Stealth mode activated," she confirmed in a quiet exchange with her co-pilot. "Course set. We are green for departure." Outside, as the Dauntless began its ascent from the station, a panoramic view of the cosmos unfolded, a vast canvas of inky darkness splattered with distant stars. Against this backdrop, the Obsidian Wraith advanced relentlessly, its immense silhouette a constant, chilling reminder of the stakes at hand. The shuttle's engines pulsed softly, harmonizing with a cosmic rhythm as it edged closer to the enemy. Each moment was a silent prayer and a calculated risk, the intersection of human daring and technological marvel. In the final moments before contact, the shuttle's systems were pushed to their limits. The adaptive cloak rendered the Dauntless nearly invisible against the cosmic void, while its quantum drive maneuvered with an agility that belied its complex design. The crew monitored a series of holographic panels displaying the enemy's power pulses and energy flows, a digital heartbeat that was about to be hijacked. Lieutenant Alvarez's calm voice came over the comm channel. "Synchronizing now, all systems nominal. Prepare to initiate the upload on my mark." Time seemed to slow as the shuttle neared the target zone. The tension in the cockpit was palpable, each second stretching into an eternity. Commander Morrison's hands hovered over the controls, her eyes flickering between the encrypted data streams and the looming presence of the warship. Outside the viewport, the cosmic expanse bore silent witness to this high-stakes dance of stealth and precision. Every detail mattered. Every heartbeat was a countdown toward either salvation or catastrophic failure. Then came the moment of truth. In a silent, almost imperceptible shift, the Dauntless aligned with the Wraith's vulnerable sector. The operatives exchanged brief, measured glances. No words were needed, as each understood the magnitude of the moment. Lieutenant Alvarez initiated the sequence, and a cascade of encrypted commands flowed from the shuttle's systems toward the enemy's digital core. The virus, owned by countless hours of simulation and sacrifice, began its work, seeking to shatter the warship's rigid internal harmony. As the code took hold, alarms flared in the distant corridors of the Obsidian Wraith. Its previously rhythmic pulses faltered, momentarily disrupted by the unexpected invasion of foreign commands. In that fleeting interval, the carefully calculated plan of Shadow Protocol was set into motion, a digital coup d'etat against an enemy that had underestimated the power of human ingenuity. The silence of space was broken by a surge of activity on the holographic displays, a dance of light and code that signaled the beginning of the end for the warship's formidable systems. In that charged moment, the shuttle's crew held their breath. The operation was a perilous blend of art and science, where every millisecond carried the weight of billions. Commander Morrison's eyes were fixed on the primary screen, watching as the enemy's defenses began to collapse under the relentless barrage of their carefully crafted algorithm. It was a battle fought not with conventional weapons, but with the intangible forces of intellect, creativity, and a will to survive against overwhelming odds. As the Dauntless maintained its delicate position, the once impenetrable facade of the Obsidian Wraith wavered. The cascading failures within its power grid were a testament to the success of the human-designed virus. In that silent, star-studded theater of space, the battle was no longer a simple engagement. It had become a war of attrition, a testament to the ingenuity of a species that refused to be subjugated by the might of an empire. And so, as the Shadow Protocol unfolded in real time, the fate of Earth hung precariously in the balance. The Dauntless, a tiny beacon of human defiance in the vast darkness, had taken the first audacious step toward outsmarting a warship that was meant to be unstoppable. In that convergence of technology, strategy, and raw human spirit, every heartbeat echoed a single, unwavering truth. Humanity would never surrender without a fight. Deep within the silent void, a chain reaction began to writhe through the imposing structure of the Obsidian Wraith. The virus, an elegant tapestry of human ingenuity woven into lines of disruptive code, had taken root, and its impact was unfolding with relentless precision. In the cockpit of the stealth shuttle Dauntless, Lieutenant Marco Alvarez watched the enemy's digital pulse flicker on his display. The smooth, rhythmic throb of the warship's core was now marred by stuttering spikes and erratic surges, a clear sign that the carefully planted virus was compromising the vessel's neural grid. Back at the Celestial Defense Nexus, a blend of hope and tension filled the command center. Holographic screens projected real-time data streams that showed the cascading failures within the warship's power network. Dr. Elena Vasquez, who had witnessed the anomaly from the very first faint signal, leaned forward as she monitored the situation. "The code is fracturing their systems. Power levels are plunging in sectors that should have remained stable," she noted, her voice a mix of scientific awe and deep-seated relief. General Marcus Reed, ever the embodiment of steadfast determination, allowed himself a brief nod. In that moment, every member of humanity's finest minds realized that the battle was no longer fought solely with weapons, but with the very essence of human creativity. Inside the enemy warship, the virus spread like wildfire. Its presence disrupted the intricate dance of sensors and actuators, causing isolated compartments to lose synchronization. Sparks of rogue energy danced across cold metallic surfaces, and the ship's normally smooth hull began to shudder under the strain of internal chaos. Automated defense turrets, which moments before had been poised with lethal precision, now sputtered in confusion as they attempted to recalibrate against an enemy that was, in effect, its own making. In a narrow corridor along the inner hull of the Wraith, a cascade of failing systems triggered alarms that reverberated through its vast, echoing chambers. A low mechanical groan rose from deep within the ship's engine core, a sound that mirrored the mounting despair of an empire's pride. Within the nexus of data and light, the codebreakers observed a sudden spike in error reports. "It's working faster than anticipated," Leon Zhou remarked quietly, her eyes scanning the rapid flow of cryptic data. "The ship's feedback loops are going into overdrive. We might see a complete collapse if this trend continues." Outside, the Dauntless maintained its precarious position. Commander Rhea Morrison's hands remained steady on the controls as she guided the shuttle through a field of debris that began to detach from the crumbling warship. "Keep your focus sharp, Lieutenant Alvarez," she instructed in a measured tone, her gaze fixed on the viewport where flashes of burning circuits illuminated the cosmic darkness. "Our job isn't done until we confirm that every critical system has been neutralized." The virus, however, was not without its countermeasures. Deep within the labyrinth of the warship's core, a secondary security protocol, an ancient, dormant subroutine designed to override rogue code, awakened in a desperate bid to regain control. For a brief, heart-stopping moment, the Wraith's internal network pulsed with renewed vigor. Automated commands cascaded along hidden pathways, attempting to quarantine the intruding code. Yet, every counterstrike only seemed to amplify the virus's effect, turning the ship's self-healing mechanisms into a chaotic feedback loop that accelerated its disintegration. In a critical control chamber illuminated by the eerie glow of failing energy cells, the virus's impact reached a fevered pitch. Structural supports began to fracture under the strain of uncontrolled energy surges, and once secure databanks released torrents of corrupted information into the network. The scene was a digital maelstrom, a frenetic interplay of light, sound, and raw energy that underscored the sheer audacity of the human gambit. "This is it," murmured a technician at the Nexus, eyes wide as he tracked the cascading collapse. "We're seeing a complete breakdown of the Wraith's command architecture." A moment of unexpected silence fell over the Dauntless. The crew exchanged brief, tense glances, each silently acknowledging the gravity of what was unfolding. Outside, the once imposing silhouette of the Obsidian Wraith now resembled a wounded Leviathan, its form distorted by the chaos within. A sudden series of deep rumblings emanated from the warship, as if the vessel itself were convulsing in agony. In that sound lay the echo of an empire's downfall, a symphony composed by human hands, conducted with precision and courage. As the cascade of failures continued unabated, the warship's once mighty shields began to flicker and vanish, leaving it exposed to the unforgiving void. The breach in its defenses was a stark declaration. The relentless assault on its digital core had left it vulnerable, and there was no turning back. "We have confirmation." Lieutenant Alvarez's calm voice resonated over the comm link. "The virus has decimated over 60% of critical systems. The Obsidian Wraith is now in a state of irreversible collapse." At the Nexus, a ripple of exhilaration surged through the gathered commanders and scientists. General Reed's eyes glistened with both pride and the somber recognition of the stakes they had averted. "Prepare to relay this success to all units," he commanded, his tone both celebratory and resolute. "We must ensure every man and machine is aware that the tide has turned." His words were met with a chorus of affirmative responses, the unity of purpose radiating through the control center like a beacon. In the void of space, the final act of the virus's assault unfolded with dramatic flair. The warped structure of the warship began to disintegrate in a controlled collapse, a chain reaction that echoed across the sensors of every human outpost in the system. Shards of shattered metal and dissipating energy fields scattered into the darkness, a testament to the power of human intellect and resilience. The Obsidian Wraith, once the epitome of imperial might, was now a crumbling husk destined to serve as a monument to human defiance. Yet, amidst the chaos, there was no room for complacency. The success of the virus had bought humanity precious time, but the final phase of the operation demanded one more daring move. Commander Morrison's voice returned over the comm channel, clear and unwavering. "Maintain position. I want to record every moment of this event. Let our triumph be a message to every corner of the galaxy. We will not be subdued by fear or oppression." Her command carried the weight of a promise, one that echoed the ancient, unyielding spirit of humanity, ever ready to face down the darkest of threats with ingenuity and resolve. In that charged interlude, as the warship's systems collapsed into a symphony of digital chaos and crumbling steel, the universe bore witness to an extraordinary moment. The cascade of anarchy that had engulfed the Obsidian Wraith was not merely the failure of a colossal machine, it was the birth of a new era, one defined by the boundless creativity and indomitable will of humankind. Every spark, every failing circuit, every reverberation through the emptiness of space spoke of a singular truth. Even against the overwhelming force of an empire, human innovation could forge a path to survival and hope. And so, with the shattered remnants of the warship slowly fading into the cosmic tapestry, The battle that had once promised extinction now marked a turning point. A resounding declaration that humanity, against all odds, had learned to outsmart its most formidable adversary. In the cold aftermath of the Obsidian Wraith's collapse, the silence of space became a canvas for both triumph and unease. Debris from the shattered warship drifted like scattered memories against the backdrop of distant stars, its fragmented pieces whispering secrets of a technology far beyond human comprehension. At the Celestial Defense Nexus, the air was thick with a mixture of elation and apprehension as commanders prepared for the next phase. The salvage and analysis of what remained. A specialized recovery unit, codenamed Vanguard, was quickly assembled. This elite team comprised veteran engineers, data analysts, and security specialists tasked with retrieving vital intelligence from the wreckage. Leading the team was Captain Elias Marlowe, a seasoned operator known for his uncanny ability to find order amid chaos, and Lieutenant Noor Haddad, an astute data analyst whose quiet determination had earned her respect across the ranks. As the salvage shuttle, aptly named Aurora, detached from the Nexus and glided toward the sprawling debris field, the weight of responsibility pressed upon every soul on board. Inside Aurora's compact command cabin, Captain Marlowe's eyes were fixed on the holographic display that depicted the disintegrating fragments of the enemy vessel. "Stay sharp," he murmured, his voice a low rumble that resonated with both caution and excitement. Every shard of that ship could hold the key to understanding our enemy's next move. Lieutenant Haddad nodded silently as she began setting up her portable decryption console, her fingers already dancing over the controls. As Aurora edged closer to a particularly large fragment, a distorted remnant of the warship's central command core, the sensors began to pick up faint, erratic signals. The fragment, still pulsing with residual energy, exuded an eerie glow that contrasted sharply with the surrounding darkness. "Captain, I'm detecting an encrypted transmission buried within the core's residual data," Haddad reported in a hushed tone, her eyes reflecting the soft luminescence of the readouts. "It appears to be an automated log or perhaps a final directive." Captain Marlowe's gaze narrowed as he leaned forward. "Can you isolate it?" he asked. The ensuing silence was filled only by the whirs of the ship's systems and the measured tapping of Haddad's keystrokes. Slowly, a garbled message emerged on the console, a cascade of symbols and fragmented sentences that hinted at something far more sinister than a mere defeat. "Protocol initiated, hidden directive, enemy reserve, awaits activation," the message repeated in loops, each cycle carrying a palpable tension. Realizing the potential implications, Marlowe ordered, "Secure the fragment and begin full-spectrum analysis. We need every byte of data on that directive." The salvage team quickly moved into a coordinated flurry of activity. Robotic arms and specialized tools gently ensnared the fragment, stabilizing it for transport back to the Nexus. Outside, as Aurora maneuvered amidst drifting remnants and cosmic debris, the scene was one of eerie beauty, a silent testament to both human ingenuity and the inherent dangers of advanced warfare. Back at the Nexus, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. In a secure laboratory outfitted with state-of-the-art quantum processors and holographic interfaces, Lieutenant Haddad and her colleagues worked feverishly to decode the salvaged data. The fragment's digital signature was unlike anything recorded before, its code laced with layers of encryption that bore the unmistakable imprint of the Galactic Empire's technological craftsmanship. "This isn't just a salvage mission, it's a window into the enemy's mind," Haddad whispered as she cross-referenced the extracted data with known Empire protocols. As the hours passed, the team pieced together the hidden message. It became apparent that the warship had been only one component of a larger, more elaborate contingency plan. The cryptic directive alluded to an enemy reserve, a dormant fleet of warships, or perhaps a concealed superweapon, held in reserve by the Empire for a moment of absolute crisis. A cold shiver of realization passed through the room. The destruction of the Obsidian Wraith, though a monumental victory, might have been only the opening salvo in a far grander conflict. General Marcus Reed was summoned to oversee the unfolding intelligence review. Standing before a vast holographic display that now filled the lab's wall, he listened intently as Haddad detailed the decrypted fragments. "It appears this warship was more than a lone instrument of terror," she explained, her tone measured yet grave. "It was a part of an integrated system. Its collapse was designed to trigger the activation of additional assets, a reserve force that could be mobilized at a moment's notice." Reed's face hardened as he absorbed the implications. "We've won one battle, but it seems the war is far from over," he stated, his voice a blend of pride and foreboding. Across the command center, a flurry of strategic meetings commenced. Analysts, military strategists, and scientists gathered to reassess Earth's defense posture in light of the new intelligence. In whispered conversations and rapid-fire exchanges, the idea that the Empire had concealed a deeper threat took hold. "If there's a reserve waiting in the wings, then our victory might just be a prelude to a larger onslaught," an aide remarked, his words laden with anxiety. The room fell into a heavy silence as the reality of the situation sank in. Within the salvage lab, Captain Marlowe and Lieutenant Haddad continued their meticulous work. The fragment's core, a compact but potent data node, seemed to harbor layers of archived schematics and encrypted blueprints. "I'm cross-checking these schematics against our known databases," Marlowe explained during a brief lull. "There's a signature here, something that doesn't match any standard Imperial design. It could be a prototype or an anomaly engineered for a very specific purpose." Haddad's eyes flicked over the reassembled data streams, her mind racing with possibilities. "If we can decipher this anomaly, it might reveal not only the location of the enemy reserve, but also weaknesses we can exploit," she surmised, her voice a mixture of hope and determination. In the shadowed recesses of the Nexus, a covert discussion began to circulate among a small circle of senior officers. They pondered whether the Empire, in its arrogance, had underestimated the human capacity for adaptation. "The Empire built its arsenal on the premise of inevitability, power, order, unyielding might," one officer noted quietly. "But perhaps our victory here, our ability to unearth their hidden secrets, is proof that human ingenuity can always find a way to turn the tide." His words, shared in hushed tones away from the prying eyes of superiors, embodied the heart of the HFY ethos that had fueled humanity's relentless struggle for survival. As night turned to the endless cycles of simulated day within the Nexus, the new intelligence began to crystallize into actionable plans. Commanders and engineers worked side by side, drafting contingency protocols and mobilizing reconnaissance assets to scout potential locations for the enemy reserve. In this crucible of crisis, every individual was reminded that victory was not solely measured by the destruction of an enemy warship, but by the capacity to learn, adapt, and prepare for the battles yet to come. Outside, the void of space was indifferent to human triumphs and tribulations. The scattered fragments of the obsidian wraith continued their silent drift, each piece a relic of a bygone era of tyranny and a portent of challenges still lurking in the dark. But within the walls of the Nexus, a newfound resolve burned bright. The successful sabotage of the warship had galvanized humanity, instilling a fierce determination to unmask every secret the Empire had buried. In that pivotal moment, as the pieces of a shattered adversary were painstakingly reassembled into a mosaic of hidden truths, a single unyielding truth emerged. Humanity's greatest strength lay not just in its weapons or its numbers, but in its unquenchable thirst for knowledge and the relentless courage to confront the unknown. Every fragment salvaged, every encrypted line of code deciphered, was a step toward a future where Earth would not cower in fear, but rise boldly to face whatever darkness the cosmos had in store. The Nexus buzzed with the energy of both victory and vigilance, setting the stage for the battles to come. With the hidden directive now in hand, humanity's war against tyranny had taken on a new, even more perilous dimension, one where every secret unraveled brought with it the promise of both salvation and the specter of a new, looming threat. In the wake of the shocking revelations from the salvaged remnants of the obsidian wraith, the celestial defense nexus entered a state of frenzied activity. The new intelligence, a fragmented directive hinting at a dormant enemy reserve, had shaken the confidence of even the most battle-hardened officers. Now every mind was focused on one task: to locate this hidden armada before it could be awakened, to unleash a renewed threat upon Earth. At the heart of the Nexus, an emergency strategic assembly convened. General Marcus Reed, his stern gaze reflecting equal parts resolve and concern, addressed an assembly of commanders, analysts, and engineers in a vast briefing chamber dominated by an immense holographic star map. "We now know the Empire has a contingency plan, an enemy reserve poised to strike at our weakest moment," he intoned, his voice echoing in the charged silence. "Our next operation is to locate and identify this hidden threat. If we can pinpoint its location, we stand a fighting chance to preempt its activation." The plan, codenamed Operation Nightfall, was as audacious as it was desperate. A state-of-the-art reconnaissance vessel, the Knight's Veil, was readied for a mission that would push humanity's technological prowess and nerve to their limits. Engineered with an adaptive cloaking system and equipped with an array of quantum sensors, the Knight's Veil was humanity's spearhead into the unknown recesses of space, territory rumored to harbor the Empire's secret base. In a secluded hangar, away from the fervor of the Central Command, Commander Darius Kane, a seasoned pilot with a reputation for nerves of steel, and his small elite crew prepared for departure. The crew comprised 5 specialists: Navigator Juno Reyes, whose uncanny sense of spatial dynamics made her indispensable; Engineer Tomas Velez, a virtuoso of systems and sensors; Communications Officer Mira Solis, whose calm efficiency kept the ship connected to the Nexus; and Tactical Specialist Ilya Resnik, whose silent vigilance ensured that every move was calculated and secure. As the Knight's Veil disengaged from the safety of the station, the void of deep space stretched out before them like an endless, star-studded ocean. The vessel's adaptive cloak shimmered, blending it seamlessly into the dark backdrop, while the crew meticulously monitored every instrument reading. The journey to the suspected location of the enemy reserve would take them through sectors of space that few had ever traversed, a region marked by anomalous gravitational fields and erratic energy signatures. "Coordinates locked in, Commander," Juno reported, her voice a measured whisper that betrayed both excitement and the gravity of the mission. "We're approaching the perimeter of the designated sector. It's strangely quiet out here. Too quiet, almost as if the cosmos itself is holding its breath." Commander Kane's eyes never left the holographic displays where clusters of data points painted a picture of a vast, uncharted territory. "Maintain stealth protocols at all times. We have one shot to gather this intelligence without alerting them," he replied. His tone was calm, but every word was laced with urgency. Hours passed in tense silence as the Knight's Veil glided deeper into the cosmic unknown. Suddenly, Thomas's station beeped with a series of rapid alerts. "Commander, I'm picking up an anomalous energy signature, a massive structured field that doesn't match any natural phenomenon," he announced, fingers dancing over his console. The holographic display shifted to reveal a faint outline of a colossal installation, cloaked in darkness, yet unmistakably artificial. It was a ghostly silhouette, barely distinguishable from the void, yet pulsing with a rhythm that hinted at an underlying power source. "That's our target," Kane said, his voice low but resolute. "Plot a course closer to that anomaly. We need high-resolution scans and as much data as we can extract without compromising our position." Ilya's eyes flicked to his tactical readouts, alert for any signs of defensive measures or potential countermeasures. "I'm detecting minor fluctuations in the energy field, almost as if the installation is actively modulating its cloaking. We must proceed with extreme caution." As the Knight's Veil inched closer, the sensors began to capture fragments of the enemy reserve's architecture. The structure, sprawling and labyrinthine, appeared to be a hidden base, a clandestine stronghold designed to house a fleet of warships and serve as the nerve center for their reserve forces. Its outer hull was composed of an alloy that absorbed and diffused energy, rendering it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. Even so, The sporadic pulses of power betrayed its presence. Mira's steady voice over the comlink broke the silence. Data packet incoming, structural layouts, energy outputs, defensive grid patterns. It's unlike anything we've encountered before. The enormity of the discovery pressed down on the crew. Commander Kane's mind raced as he analyzed the incoming data. This isn't merely a storage depot, it's a command hub, he observed. The design suggests centralized control of an armada, with integrated defenses that can activate in minutes. If the Empire decides to mobilize, this facility could become the fulcrum of their assault. His words resonated with the gravity of their task. They had to relay every detail back to the Nexus to inform the next phase of Earth's defense strategy. Suddenly, a new alert startled the crew. Tomas's console flashed with warning signals as the cloaking field around the installation began to fluctuate erratically. "Commander, we're detecting an increase in energy variance. Something's stirring within that field," he said, eyes wide with concern. The vessel shuddered slightly, as if caught in an unexpected surge of gravitational pull. Juno quickly adjusted the ship's trajectory, steering the Night's Veil behind a nearby nebula, its cover of interstellar dust providing additional concealment. "Hold position and initiate deep scan protocols," Kane ordered. The ship's sensors, now pushed to their operational limits, began to capture more detailed imagery of the cloaked base. Over the next tense minutes, the crew pieced together a clearer picture. A vast, hidden complex with multiple tiers of defense, interconnected by a network of power conduits and data channels. It was as if the installation were a living organism, pulsing with a menacing mechanical heartbeat. In the hushed confines of the Night's Veil, every crew member was hyper-aware of the stakes. Mira's steady fingers transmitted the freshly compiled data back to the Nexus, where teams of analysts would begin the arduous task of deciphering the enemy's next move. "Commander," Ilya interjected softly, "if we're lucky, this might be our only window into the Empire's secret armada. We must not trigger any alarms." Kane nodded in agreement. Gaze fixed on the slowly unfurling mystery before them. For what felt like an eternity, the Night's Veil lingered at the periphery of the enemy installation, gathering every scrap of data available. The tension in the cramped command cabin was palpable. The silence was punctuated only by the soft hum of engines and the distant beeping of sensor readouts. Then, as abruptly as it had begun, the anomalous fluctuations subsided. The cloaking field stabilized, and the hidden base's contours receded into a quiet, ghostly outline. "Data secured," Tomas confirmed, relief mingling with exhaustion in his tone. "We've got comprehensive readings of the base's structure, energy matrices, and even some encrypted communications that hint at activation protocols." Kane exhaled slowly, the weight of their discovery sinking in. "Excellent work, everyone. Now we need to transmit everything back to the Nexus and prepare for extraction. Our mission here is complete." With a series of deft maneuvers, the Night's Veil retraced its cautious path through the cosmic veil, slipping away from the enemy installation and back toward the safety of known space. In the debriefing that followed, Commander Kane recounted every detail to a cadre of analysts and military strategists. The revelation was as profound as it was alarming. The Empire's hidden base was not merely a relic of past might, but a living, breathing node of future aggression. It was a ticking time bomb, its activation only a matter of hours or even minutes. Back at the Nexus, as the transmitted data began to coalesce into actionable intelligence, General Reed convened an urgent council. The discovery of the enemy reserve forced a stark reassessment of Earth's defenses. "We stand at the precipice of destiny," he declared, his voice firm yet somber. "This base is the linchpin of the Empire's hidden armada. We now have the knowledge to strike before they can rally their forces, but we must act swiftly, decisively, and with the full might of our ingenuity." The revelation ignited a flurry of planning and preparation, setting the stage for a counteroffensive that would test humanity's resolve and resourcefulness like never before. Operation Nightfall had not only provided the crucial intelligence needed to unmask the enemy's hidden stronghold, it had also proven that in the vast darkness of space, The indomitable spirit of humankind could pierce even the most impenetrable shroud of imperial secrecy. As the crew of the Knight's Vale disembarked, weary yet triumphant, the echoes of their mission resonated throughout the Nexus. In that moment, humanity stood united on the edge of a precipice, armed with newfound knowledge and a resolve forged in the crucible of survival. The coming days would be critical. Every decision, every maneuver, could mean the difference between ultimate annihilation and the dawn of a new era. The cosmos, vast and indifferent, bore silent witness to this turning point. The hidden enemy reserve had been revealed, and with it, the stark reality that the war was far from over. But the courage and intellect that had guided humanity thus far shone brighter than ever, a beacon of hope in the infinite night. The stage was now set for a final decisive act in the struggle for Earth's future, and the spirit of humanity prepared to rise once more in defiance of an empire that had underestimated the true power of innovation and resolve. The moment had arrived. For weeks, humanity's finest had prepared in secret, gathering intelligence and refining strategies to counter an enemy that had long assumed its supremacy. Now, with the location of the Empire's hidden base firmly established and every detail meticulously charted, the Celestial Defense Nexus mobilized its premier assault fleet for what would be a decisive strike. Deep in the Strategic Operations Center, General Marcus Reed stood before a vast, three-dimensional hologram of the enemy installation, a sprawling, camouflaged complex embedded in the outer reaches of a desolate nebula. The soft hum of data streams filled the air as Reed's eyes, hardened by countless battles, surveyed the projected blueprint of the base. "This is it," he declared in a measured tone that betrayed no hint of uncertainty. "Today, we confront the Empire on its own ground. Our objective is to disable their reserve and cripple their command before they can mobilize." Across the room, tactical officers and engineers worked in synchronized urgency. Among them, Commander Darius Kane, now back at the Nexus after his reconnaissance mission aboard the Knight's Vale, briefed his assault team with precision. "We're not engaging a static target," he reminded his crew. "This installation is built like a living fortress. Every tier, every conduit is engineered to adapt and defend. We must strike swiftly, disrupt their network, and extract every possible advantage from our superior intelligence." His steady gaze swept over his unit, an elite mix of pilots, cyber warfare experts, and demolition specialists, each chosen for their unyielding resolve in the face of overwhelming odds. As the fleet of assault vessels prepared for departure, the docking bays buzzed with activity. The flagship, an agile corvette known as Valiant Dawn, led the formation. Its sleek hull, emblazoned with the insignia of humanity's defiant spirit, reflected both the scars of past conflicts and the hope of a future reclaimed. Inside the Valiant Dawn, pilot Lieutenant Zara Mendez performed her final pre-flight checks. Her fingers danced over control panels while she whispered, "This is our chance. Let's show them what we're made of." The quiet determination in her voice was mirrored by every member of the crew, each aware that the outcome of this mission could decide the fate of Earth. Outside, the vast darkness of space was punctuated by the brilliant flares of distant suns. The assault fleet broke from the safety of the Nexus in a carefully orchestrated maneuver, their paths converging on the enemy base with surgical precision. Under the command of General Reed's strategic directives, they entered the nebula, a turbulent sea of interstellar dust and energy fluctuations that served as both a shield and a hazard. As the ships navigated the chaotic environment, onboard sensors strained to pick up any sign of hidden defenses. Within the control deck of the Valiant Dawn, Commander Kane's voice resonated over the comm link. "Approach vector confirmed. Initiate stealth mode and prepare for a coordinated cyber attack. Our cyber specialists are primed to deploy a counter-virus designed to dismantle the base's defense grid. Remember, we're here to sow chaos from within. Infiltrate, disrupt, and exfiltrate." His command was delivered in a calm cadence that belied the tension crackling through every circuit and heartbeat on board. As the fleet closed in on the enemy installation, the full scale of the target emerged on the main display. The base was a labyrinth of interlocking corridors, energy nodes, and sensor arrays. Its outer hull a dark monolith, interspersed with pulsating lines of light that trace the flow of power. Engineer Thomas Velez and his team monitor the shifting energy patterns with bated breath. I'm detecting a synchronization pattern in the defense grid, almost as if the entire complex is being controlled by a central command loop, Velez reported quietly. His voice carried a mix of admiration and apprehension. If our virus can disrupt that loop, the entire system will collapse like a house of cards. At that precise moment, a flurry of encrypted transmissions began to stream through the Nexus channels, data packets relaying the Empire's own contingency commands. Cyber warfare expert Mira Solis deciphered the incoming code with rapid efficiency. They're initiating their secondary protocols, she announced, eyes fixed on the fluctuating readouts. If our counter-virus isn't deployed within the next 60 seconds, their defenses will reorganize, and we may lose our window of opportunity. Her words sent ripples of urgency through the command center. The tension escalated as the fleet took its final positions. In the silent vastness of space, the assault vessels aligned around the enemy base, each ship a pinpoint of human defiance against a backdrop of cosmic darkness. The first vessel to breach the perimeter was a nimble frigate that skirted the outer edge of the installation, deploying specialized drones that would serve as both scouts and digital saboteurs. One small drone, equipped with a miniature quantum processor, zipped past energy barriers and interfaced with the base's internal network. Its presence triggered a brief cascade of alarms on the enemy side, a signal that the virus was already at work. Inside the Valiant Dawn, Lieutenant Mendez's eyes never left her control screens as she maneuvered the ship closer to the heart of the installation. Enemy grid is responding to our incursion, she reported, her tone clipped and professional. Adjusting trajectory to minimize exposure. We need to get our main payload in position. The payload, a specially engineered cybernetic virus fused with electromagnetic pulse emitters, was humanity's final trump card. It was designed to not only cripple the digital infrastructure of the base, but also create a massive EMP burst that would disable any lingering defense systems. At the critical moment, the coordinated assault began in earnest. A rapid sequence of commands initiated the virus upload, sent simultaneously from multiple vessels. As the payload streamed into the enemy network, the installation's inner workings shuddered visibly. Energy conduits flickered erratically, and sensor arrays went dark in rapid succession. Commander Kane's voice came through again, steady and resolute. The virus is penetrating the command loop. Hold your positions and prepare for extraction once the collapse is confirmed. Throughout the nebula, the base convulsed under the onslaught of the cyber attack. Automated defense systems, momentarily confused by the barrage of conflicting commands, fell silent. Explosions of disintegrating power nodes illuminated the dark corridors like distant lightning, and the once imposing structure began to crumble from within. In one brief charged exchange over the comm channel, a junior pilot reported, "Grid collapse initiated. Defenses are down." The words were a clarion call of victory that reverberated through the fleet. Yet, amid the chaos, the battle was far from over. The enemy's secondary protocols had been designed to reactivate dormant security measures even as the primary system collapsed. Rapidly, new countermeasures began to ripple through the base, and the assault team had to recalibrate their extraction plan in real time. "Extract payload and retreat to formation," Kane ordered, his tone cutting through the static. The fleet adjusted course with practiced precision, each vessel retreating in a coordinated ballet that minimized exposure to the remaining erratic energy discharges. As the virus reached its full effect, the enemy installation's central command began to implode. Torrents of data and sparks of raw energy burst outward, creating a vortex of electromagnetic chaos that threatened to draw in nearby vessels. General Reed's voice, measured and firm, guided the fleet through the final moments of the assault. "Maintain formation and initiate safe exit protocols. We've done it. Our strike has rendered their reserve inert." His words were both a reassurance and a challenge to any remaining forces that might attempt to mount a counteroffensive. In the aftermath of the assault, as the nebula slowly reclaimed the shattered remnants of the enemy base, the human fleet regrouped in a tight formation. Exhausted yet resolute, the crews exchanged brief words of triumph and relief over comm channels. The victory had come at a steep price, a demonstration of both the Empire's ferocity and humanity's capacity to turn the tide through intellect and unity. Inside the command center of the Nexus, the celebration was muted but filled with purpose. The data from the assault was immediately analyzed, confirming that the enemy reserve had been neutralized, at least for now. Every officer in that room understood that this battle, like all those before it, was merely one chapter in an ongoing struggle. But the success of Operation Nightfall had provided a critical turning point, a moment when the ingenuity of humankind shone like a beacon in the cosmic night. As the fleet slowly returned to base, the stars beyond bore silent witness to the storm of reckoning that had just passed, a testament to a species that refused to yield in the face of tyranny. The echoes of this triumph would ripple across the galaxy, inspiring those who still fought for freedom and reminding the Empire that the human spirit was, and always would be, its most formidable weapon. In the silent aftermath of Operation Nightfall and the decimation of the Empire's hidden reserve, a fragile calm began to settle over the celestial defense nexus. The cosmos, once a canvas for dread and foreboding, now shimmered with the promise of a new dawn. Yet, amidst the quiet of victorious winds, a final, desperate challenge emerged, one that would determine whether Earth could finally cast off the shackles of looming extinction. High above Earth's orbit, scattered remnants of the once feared Obsidian Wraith and the disintegrated enemy base drifted like ghostly monuments to Imperial ambition. These fragments, though broken, still pulsed with the last vestiges of a deadly purpose. Intelligence gathered by the Night's Veil and corroborated by deep space sensors revealed that one critical segment, a reinforced command module, had survived the initial onslaught. This module, imbued with sophisticated failsafes and encrypted contingencies, posed a lingering threat. If reactivated, it could trigger a final countermeasure that might plunge humanity into chaos. General Marcus Reed, standing in the command center with his eyes fixed on the live holographic map, felt the weight of responsibility settle like a mantle upon his shoulders. "We have one final target," he announced, his tone measured but resolute. "That module is the keystone of their last gambit. We cannot allow it to fall into enemy hands, or worse, reactivate their network. Today, we end this threat once and for all." Around him, the room filled with the quiet intensity of battle-hardened officers and technicians, each prepared to give their all in the final push. A specialized task force, codenamed Final Dawn, was rapidly mobilized. At the helm of this mission was Commander Darius Kane, whose earlier reconnaissance had made him the natural choice for the delicate operation. Alongside him, a small crew of elite pilots and cybernetic specialists boarded the assault vessel Eclipse. The craft, a marvel of stealth and firepower, was engineered to penetrate the enemy's last bastion with minimal detection. Its adaptive cloaking systems and precision-guided munitions were humanity's final answer to a threat that had once seemed insurmountable. As the Eclipse detached from the Nexus and streaked into the void, the ship's interior hummed with a tense energy. Lieutenant Zara Mendez manned the navigation console, her eyes fixed on the module's position, a small, isolated orb nestled amid a swirling field of ionized debris. "Coordinates locked," she reported softly, her voice barely breaking the steady cadence of the engines. "Module in sight, all systems green." Her words, like a spark in the darkness, ignited a renewed sense of purpose among the crew. Outside, the void bore silent witness to the final convergence of destiny. The Eclipse advanced steadily toward the target, evading scattered energy discharges and stray sensor pings that betrayed the remnants of enemy countermeasures. Each maneuver was a calculated risk, a dance with the unpredictable chaos of space, where one misstep could spell doom. But the crew's collective resolve was unyielding, owned through months of relentless adversity. and punctuated by the victories that had come before. Inside the ship's command deck, Commander Kane's gaze remained fixed on the holographic display mapping the enemy module's structure. "This module is our linchpin," he murmured, more to himself than to the team. "It holds the last of their operational commands, a failsafe that could undo everything we've accomplished. We disable it, we disable their final hope." His words were punctuated by a brief pause, a moment of introspection that spoke volumes of the stakes at hand. As the eclipse closed in, cyber specialist Mira Solis initiated a secure link with the vessel's onboard quantum computer. The plan was audacious: infiltrate the module's encrypted matrix with a dual-pronged digital assault that would simultaneously scramble its control algorithms and overload its power conduits. "I'm deploying the counter-virus," Mira announced in a measured tone that belied the urgency of the moment. "This payload is engineered to create a cascading failure in the module's core systems. Once activated, there's no going back." Her eyes, reflecting streams of rapidly evolving code, betrayed the fierce determination that had become synonymous with humanity's fight for survival. Outside, the module loomed like a solitary sentinel against the void, a relic of imperial arrogance and a final testament to the enemy's belief in its own invincibility. The Eclipse's thrusters flared as the vessel executed a precision insertion maneuver, positioning itself at a point where its offensive payload could be delivered with pinpoint accuracy. In that critical second, time seemed to dilate. Every heartbeat, every breath, resonated with the unspoken promise of a species unwilling to surrender. A series of rapid, low-frequency pulses emanated from the module as it registered the intrusion. The integrated defense system stirred into momentary action, a flurry of automated responses that sought to repel the digital invasion. But the counter-virus, engineered with the same ingenuity that had characterized humanity's rise, surged forward like an unstoppable tide. Data streams clashed in a silent, frenetic battle of code and willpower, a contest fought in the hidden language of the cosmos. "Module integrity compromised," Mira reported, her voice steady as she observed the digital assault through her terminal. "System overload in progress." The holographic display flickered with erratic bursts of red and orange, a visual cacophony that heralded the impending collapse of the enemy's final safeguard. At the same moment, Commander Kane gave the order to initiate the kinetic strike. "Prepare to engage the secondary payload," he ordered crisply, his fingers dancing over the control interface. A series of high-energy electromagnetic pulses were readied to trigger a full-scale EMP burst, designed to shatter any remaining circuits and ensure that the module could never be reactivated. "Once we've delivered the strike, disengage and retreat to a safe distance," he continued, his voice carrying the unyielding command of one who has seen too many close calls. The final moments unfolded with breathtaking rapidity. The counter-virus and the EMP payload, each a masterstroke of human ingenuity, converged upon the enemy module. A brilliant flash of energy burst forth, a silent supernova of electromagnetic force that radiated outward in ripples of power. The module shuddered violently, its once imposing structure disintegrating into a cascade of sparks and fragmented circuits. For a fleeting moment, the void was illuminated by the brilliance of destruction, a reminder that even in the depths of darkness, the fire of human resolve could ignite the cosmos. Back at the Nexus, the comm channels erupted with cautious cheers and relieved murmurs as the final confirmation was received. "Module neutralized," came the measured report from the Eclipse. "All systems have collapsed. The threat is terminated." General Reed allowed himself a brief, inward smile, a small victory that carried the weight of millennia of struggle and sacrifice. In the days that followed, as the scattered debris of the enemy's last vestige drifted silently away, humanity began the slow process of rebuilding and reimagining its future. The battle had been hard won, not by sheer might, but by the clever, indefatigable spirit that had defined every chapter of their journey. The Empire's arrogance had been its undoing, undone by a species that refused to be cowed by tyranny. On a starlit evening at the Nexus, as officers and scientists gathered to record the final logs of the operation, Commander Kane addressed the assembled team. Today, we have not only saved our home, but we have also sent a message across the galaxies. A message that human ingenuity, unity, and perseverance can overcome even the gravest of threats. This is not the end, but a new beginning. His voice, echoing in the vast chamber, resonated with the spirit of every man and woman who had fought for Earth's survival. And as the final vestiges of darkness receded into the cosmic tapestry, humanity looked to the horizon with a renewed sense of hope and purpose. The day the Empire's greatest warship was outsmarted had become a beacon of triumph, a reminder that even when the night seemed darkest, the dawn was always within reach.